Hello everybody, my name's Liz, I'm the baker that sews. Welcome to my channel if you're new, and welcome back if you are a subscriber. As always, it's really lovely to have you here as I share my sewing journey. So welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be my top tips for learning to crochet. I asked on my YouTube channel a while ago if anybody would be interested in me sharing my experiences of learning to crochet, and there was a resounding yes of lots of people saying that that would be really interesting to them. There was a resounding yes from lots and lots of people saying that that would be really interesting and helpful. So that's what today's video is going to be about. I am going to caveat that by saying that I am still very much a beginner. I'm not going to be teaching you how to crochet because I don't have the skills for that. But I'm just going to be sharing how I have kind of discovered the love of crochet and what I have found has helped me to learn to crochet. Because I actually tried to learn to crochet 10 years ago and I failed miserably. Whereas this time round, I have been able to teach myself how to crochet the jumper that I'm wearing. So before I share my top tips and my experience of learning to crochet, I'll let you know what I'm wearing. And I thought I'd put on my crochet jumper, which I'm super proud of, in this gorgeous kind of ombre rainbow. I don't know if it is ombre actually, I keep saying ombre, but it kind of colour changing yarn that I got from Wool Warehouse. And this was my first kind of jumper pattern that I was able to follow the instructions for and construct a wearable jumper that fits. And the pattern, I'm just looking to see if I've got it. The pattern is this one here. So it's by bddpatterns.com and it's called the Bailey Pullover. And you can see on the image here, it's meant to be really relaxed fit, really oversized. They recommend that you use like a super chunky wool. I didn't use a super chunky, it's just a chunky wool. So I did size up for my jumper, but I did get the fit that I wanted. So it is oversized, but it's not as chunky as the original image. I'll stand up so you can see I've got it tucked into a skirt at the moment, but it does have, if I pull it out, it's got a sort of hemband, which is a rib stitch. I think that's what it's called. And then I've done ribbing for the cuffs. You can see the sleeves are really oversized, and then you've got the ribbing for the neckline all the way around as well. I've just got a really simple gathered plissé skirt on with a turquoise elastic waistband. So that is what I'm wearing. So I've got a whole host of things that I wanted to share with you that I have found have really helped me with my learning to crochet. So like I said at the beginning, I tried to learn 10 years ago. I bought a kit. I don't think the company exists anymore, which I bought the kit from. And there weren't any video materials or anything to go with the kit. It was just a booklet you got. I don't even have the booklet anymore because I thought I'm hopeless at learning to crochet. I can't do it. So I think I gave it away. So I got like a box that had the yarn in, you got a crochet hook, and it was just, I've got my little bag here where I keep all of my crochet hooks and things. And the hook that came was, I don't have the original hook, but it was just a metal hook. And I have found that I don't find these hooks particularly comfortable, but I'll get onto that a little bit later. And there was a booklet that had a few images and then some yarn, and it was to, I can't even remember what it was for, but I couldn't do it, so I ended up giving it away, and I gave up and thought I can't crochet at all. Then I fell in love with sewing, totally hit the ground running with sewing, really enjoyed it, immersed myself in that, and have loved sewing ever since. But I've always had this little niggly feeling that I really wanted to learn to either knit or crochet. I've tried to learn to knit and haven't really been able to get my head around knitting. I've been able to knit a very basic kind of square when I was doing the gauge for knitting, but haven't really picked up knitting in the same way as I have crochet. Who knows, maybe in 10 years time I'll sit down and I'll teach myself to knit, having waited 10 years to start learning to crochet again. We'll see. But I have definitely fallen down a rabbit hole of learning to crochet. I follow loads of Instagram accounts now and get lots of information, lots and lots of inspiration about crochet. I've got loads of crochet patterns that I'm desperate to try, and I'm having to remind myself to slow down and take it one step at a time. So I thought I'd just go through kind of my experience of learning to crochet and the resources that I have found have really helped me. And then I've got a few things that I thought I would share that I have managed to crochet. So I basically wanted to learn to crochet last summer. I knew that I had some surgery coming up, and I knew that it would be quite a long recovery from the surgery. I knew that I would have to have at least 2, if not 3 weeks of bed rest. and I knew that I would get really itchy because I wouldn't be able to sew. So I wanted to learn to do something else. So I thought crochet would be the perfect thing. So a bit of forward kind of planning to make sure that I was starting to master the skill before I actually needed to kind of immerse myself in crochet. So one thing I did do was allow myself the time to learn it. And I think because I already had the skill of sewing, I wasn't in as much of a hurry to learn to crochet, if that makes sense. So the first thing I did was I researched whether there were any in-person crochet, beginner crochet classes that I could sign up for. And I'm about 40 minutes away from Satisfaction. So I was able to sign up for their beginner learn to crochet course, which is £55. They teach you to start crocheting a headband or a snood and a scarf, I think it is. You can pick one of those projects to start working on. I am the type of person that I need to be shown how to do something. I need to have someone that I can ask, or I need to have a resource that I can keep watching over and over and over again until I master the skill. With crochet, I've done a lot of practicing of the different stitches. So as I've learnt double crochet, I've done lots of practicing of double crochet. If I've learnt to do treble crochet, I've done lots of practicing of treble crochet. So I found a pattern that allows me to practice that stitch. So it's really embedded in my long-term memory. I guess just like we would teach at school, lots and lots and lots of practice. So I booked onto the beginner crochet course. Say if you can get onto a beginner crochet course or go along to a class where somebody can show you the techniques, I would say that that's really helpful. If you can't do that, it doesn't matter. There are so many brilliant resources out there where you can still get the same experience. And the Pigeon's Nest is one of the places that I want to shout about as much as I possibly can. What Bex is doing with her business is incredible. She's really encouraging people to learn to crochet. She's got some fantastic patterns that are very beginner friendly, and she's also got a course that you can do online, which I signed up for, and I also signed Lola up for, which is From Nada to Tada, I think it's called, where you learn to crochet a granny square, and then the granny square you use to make a snood. And then she's also got lots of other patterns. Brilliant resource. She's got a YouTube channel. She's on Instagram. She's also got a Patreon, which I've signed up for, where you get lots of tutorials. You can also, if you sign up to the Patreon, you can attend, what's it called? Crochet and Natter or something, where it's every so often. I haven't actually been able to attend one yet because it's in the evenings when I'm busy with Ruby and Lola. But you can basically join a Zoom chat, crochet away, chat to like-minded people, and it's like a crochet kind of social. I am really keen to join one of them, but I subscribe to her Patreon, and it's a wealth of fantastic knowledge on that Patreon. Aside from that, there's lots of free content that you can access as well, but I would definitely recommend the Pigeon's Nest. Their From Nada to Tada crochet course is absolutely incredible. The Pigeon's Nest has also got a mini course, I think it's £15, where you get access to a PDF booklet, and it's called something like Slay Your Crochet Granny Squares, and I think there's 5 or 6 different granny squares that you can learn to stitch up, and I've actually had a go at using the course material. I've paid for it, I've got the PDF, and then you get access to 2 hours of video tutorials that show you how to crochet the different granny squares. I've actually got them up here. I've actually got 3 of the different granny squares that you can do. So there's this one, and then there's this gorgeous little love heart one, which I think is super cute. And then there's this like sunburst, I think it's called, sunflower granny square. And I just followed the course. I looked at the tutorial videos, but I also followed the PDFs, and they're written so brilliantly that they really hold your hand. But the brilliant thing about the Pigeon's Nest is the video tutorials that go alongside the Granny Square course, but also the cowl tutorial as well, where you learn to crochet a granny square. That course really gave me the confidence to learn to crochet. Came across Bella Love's crochet YouTube channel. She's also got an Instagram channel too, and there's loads of free tutorials over on her YouTube channel. And one of the first things that I learnt to crochet, I used tutorials from her channel. The first one was this drawstring bag, which I'm super proud of. It's one of the first things that I crocheted, and it was colour changing. So I've got mustard on the bottom and then a blue wool, and then you crochet the handle, and a little sort of tassel-y thing as well that goes, and it's just a little drawstring bag, and I absolutely love sort of using that little bag. And then, inspired by my confidence there, I learnt to crochet my market bag as well, and there's a fantastic tutorial. And what I really loved about both of those patterns was I just got the opportunity to practice the different stitches. And you can see that this bag is just made up of that same stitch technique. And it was really great that I got the opportunity to just keep practicing and practicing and practicing. But what I also really loved was you could pause the video or you could rewind the video and go back. So if you didn't quite understand something, I'm the type of person that needs to see it quite a few times. So I was able to watch it and watch it and watch it and then practice and just have a go at practicing that stitch. And then I was able to put together a market bag, which I love using. I was able to put together a drawstring bag as well, which again I love using. And the other thing to say is I'm left-handed. So when I first tried to learn to crochet 10 years ago, there weren't as many left-handed tutorials out there. Whereas now there's a whole host of left-handed tutorials. If you just search on YouTube, beginner crochet left-handed tutorials or beginner crochet right-handed tutorials, there'll be so many videos that you can access. I have found that Pigeon's Nest and Bella Loves Crochet both work really well for me, but it might be that there are other YouTubers out there that you prefer their style. So I would say go onto YouTube, search beginner crochet, either left-handed or right-handed, and you will find your kind of person that you really enjoy watching who explains it really well. Bex explains crochet brilliantly for me, and so does Bella Loves. And I've followed both of their tutorials with great success, and I feel really proud of myself. You can also buy patterns from Bella Loves and also Pigeon's Nest. I haven't bought any of the Bella Loves patterns, I've just followed the free tutorials, but I have bought lots of the Pigeon's Nest patterns, and I've got them here and I thought I'd show you what they look like. So this is the OG Granny Snood pattern, and you get video tutorials to go alongside this. So you just learn how to do a granny square that looks like this. Lots and lots of steps, lots and lots of information to help you along the way, and then you get lots of images as well. And it's really helpful having the video tutorials when you're first learning to do a granny square. Once I'd learnt to do a granny square, I then had a go at using the Pigeon's Nest granny square cardigan pattern, and I made myself a cardigan. I'll put a picture in now of what that looks like. And then I also had a go at crocheting a snood just using the granny stripe pattern. And again, this was really enjoyable because it was just the same stitch over and over and over again. But what I learned with this pattern was how to colour change. And then I also gained a lot of confidence with my kind of weaving in of the ends. Everything to do with crochet, there's a video tutorial out there on YouTube. What I also find sometimes when I'm following a pattern, if I don't understand the abbreviation, I just type it into Google and up pops either a YouTube video or sometimes I just need a blog post. And there are lots of blogs out there as well that are incredibly useful. There's one blog in particular, and I haven't written the name down, but I'll put an image in now of what it's called and I'll link it down below, which breaks down into great detail the different stitches and how you create each stitch for crochet. The other thing to say about Pigeon's Nest is they've got a little sticker, which I've bought, and I find this really handy to have. Where have I put it? Here, with the different, it's kind of like a conversion chart of UK abbreviations to US abbreviations, and I just keep that in my little crochet bag and I carry that around with me so that when I'm looking at patterns, if it says it's in US crochet terminology, I can easily translate that to what the UK terminology is, and I follow UK crochet terms. So just through using a huge kind of range of free material out there, which I'll link all of it down below, I've been able to pick up all the different stitches and have a go at following a pattern. What I find with patterns, they're all written in abbreviations, and this is what my patterns all look like. They've got drawings all over them, I've got numbers on the back. Quite often, like with this jumper, you're having to do the same thing for about 10, 11, 12, sometimes up to 20 of the same row. And I find just having post-it notes or a little notebook where I can keep track of which row I'm on really helpful. And you can see on this pattern I've ticked off when I've done that row, or I've crossed off when I've done that row as well. I find that really helpful. I also, what I tend to do on my patterns is create a little table. So this pattern was written in US crochet terms, so I just wrote the abbreviations and translated it basically so that I had an easy reference point for the different stitches and what stitch I was actually following, because it said single crochet here, but actually for UK crochet that's double crochet. And then HDC was half double crochet, that was actually half treble crochet. I didn't know how to do that until I started following this pattern, and again I just googled half treble crochet, what does that look like, and there was a great blog that came up to show me. So the other thing where there's lots and lots of debate about this is the type of hook that you use, and I would say there's no right or wrong way to hold your hook, and there's no right or wrong hook to use. I have just tested out a few. So I got the free metal one with the Crochet Tornado pack that I got from the Pigeon's Nest, and using that I knew that I didn't like the feel of that. It wasn't particularly comfortable for me. So then look at other types of crochet hook, and this one came up, which is just encased in a little bit of rubber. So I tried that one. That felt a little bit too solid for me and a little bit clunky. So then I tried the ergonomic ones, which have got rubber, but they feel a little bit softer. And actually I found that that is the crochet hook that works for me. There's no right or wrong way to hold your crochet hook. There's no right or wrong way to hold your wool. There'll be lots of people out there that tell you to hold your hook in a particular way. There'll be lots of people out there that tell you to hold your wool in a particular way. But just practice the stitches and practice holding your hook and holding your wool and find what is comfortable for you. So I'm not going to give you any magic answer for how to hold it and how to hold your yarn. I have just found a different way of what works for me and how I find holding the hook and what I find comfortable. I have everything together in my little bag. Now this bag was gifted to me by Janet Friel Designs ages and ages and ages ago, when I said on my YouTube channel that I wanted to learn to knit. And she helped me out with buying a knitting book and stitch markers and some wool and what my first knitting project would be. I now use this for my crochet hooks. It's got everything in there. You can hear there's loads and loads of hooks in there. And I also have lots of different stitch markers as well. So I've got this one that was gifted to me by Janet Friel, which was very kind. But then I've also got just the plastic ones. And I would say that the stitch markers are really helpful. I found that these have come in really handy when I wanted to mark what was the front of my work and what was the back of my work. And again, it's up to you which side you prefer. So just pick a side and then mark it. And then it's also helped me when I've been crocheting like the sleeves. So for this pattern, you crochet in the round and you would use a stitch marker to mark the first stitch of that round and then just go in a spiral so you don't have a seam line. And then I would just keep moving that onto the next row. So the stitch markers have come in really handy. I've also found just having a notebook where I can jot down in my notebook the abbreviation of the stitch or the abbreviation of whatever it is in the pattern, and just an explanation that makes sense to me of how to form that stitch. I've also found, and this won't be for everybody, but I've found that it really helps me with patterns. When they're really abbreviated, I have found it really helpful to write it out longhand, like a pattern instruction for a sewing pattern. It just helps me whilst I'm still learning to read the patterns. So for example, where it says here SC into the first top row, stitch ST from the hook, I would write that out longhand, and then I would then have like a tally underneath, or the numbers of how many times I need to do that underneath, so I could tick it off or cross it off, or I would just scribble on my pattern as well. When buying patterns or looking at patterns, I found Pinterest great for getting inspiration for crochet and the idea of the sorts of things that I want to crochet. Once I've mastered a skill, I've then looked for patterns that use that stitch. So treble, this jumper uses the treble stitch. I've got a cardigan that I'm working on at the moment that uses a treble stitch. It's a stitch that I'm really confident using. Those patterns also both use a technique for forming the ribbing, and that's a technique that I have just learnt to do, so I want to keep practicing that. So I've been going on to Etsy, or I've been Googling patterns that use those stitches so that I can keep on practicing those skills. There are lots and lots of free resources on YouTube. Like I said, Bella Loves Crochet. She has got a wealth of free tutorials over on her YouTube channel for left-handed crocheters, but also right-handed crocheters. On Etsy and Instagram, I followed lots of crochet pattern writers on Instagram, and also on Etsy. I've just done a little search for, I don't know, chunky cardigans, chunky jumpers, snoods using granny squares, or granny square jumper, granny square cardigan, etc. I've then looked at the reviews, and I've also looked in more detail at the description, because in the description, quite often, they will tell you what stitches are involved in that pattern. Learnt to do a specific stitch or a couple of stitches, you can look in the description to see if there are any new stitches that you would learn, or if it uses stitches that you feel confident with. And that would also help you to understand whether you think that you would be able to tackle that pattern or not. Like I said, I've got my notebook of the different stitches that I've learnt with the terms translated so that they make sense to me. The best piece of advice I could give to you is just have a try. If you get it wrong, frog your work. It's actually quite fun to frog your work. And just have a try. Don't be scared. There's lots of free resources out there to hold your hand, but there are also lots of patterns on Etsy that are quite cheap, that really help support you with your new skills and practicing your new skills as well. I found a free pattern to make a beret, and again that just had the same stitch over and over and over, but this pattern also really helped me to understand how to increase but also how to decrease as well to create a beret that I can wear. Once I'd mastered granny squares, I then used the granny squares to make a cardigan, which was really good fun. But then I also used them to make a little bag when I was on holiday. And I just completely made this up. I followed, wasn't even really a tutorial on Pinterest. It was an image I saw, but this is basically made up of, if I remember correctly, one large granny square there, one large granny square there. And then this is a granny square that's just been folded, and then I've just stitched it together, and then I crocheted a handle. So I've got a little sort of crossover bag that I've crocheted. And then I think I've showed you the snood. I've shown you the snood already, and then I've got my jumper. And then I've also crocheted a headband, which I'll put an image in. I think I've got a picture of me wearing the headband. And then I also found it was a pattern on Etsy, but it cost like a couple of pounds, to crochet a chunky hat. And I also made up a pattern to crochet a scarf as well, just using granny stripe stitch, which is what this snood is made up of, the granny stripe stitch. In terms of wool, I have found the Wool Warehouse is the place that I tend to buy most of my yarn. In fact, all of my yarn has been from the Wool Warehouse. They have a range of wool on their website. It's quite reasonably priced. You can get double knit, you can get really chunky yarn on there too, and they've got quite often a whole range of colours on their website, and their delivery is really speedy too, and your yarn tends to come in like an organza drawstring bag, so in terms of storing your yarn, that's a great thing as well. And then the other thing, the final thing that I wanted to mention is a couple of books that I have bought. So this book I bought when I went to the Satisfaction Learn to Crochet course, because it's written by the person that runs the course, and the person is called Zoe Bateman, and the book's called You Will Be Able to Crochet by the End of This Book. I have found this to be a great reference point. So if I come across a pattern that uses a stitch, I'm not quite sure what that abbreviation means, or what that stitch looks like, or what that technique means, this is almost like a crochet Bible. There's lots and lots of information. Talks about right-handed versus left-handed, how to do a slip knot. Now, I find this kind of image a bit confusing. I don't find that very easy to follow. It's very different to following photos in a sewing pattern. So I have found using this book alongside video tutorials has really helped me. I prefer to have photo images rather than drawings. I find drawings a bit confusing. But what I have found is there's lots and lots of techniques in this book that really support my understanding. So counting the chain stitches, where to insert your hook, working in a stitch versus space, turning your work, single crochet, what that looks like, what half double crochet is, etc. There's a page or 2 pages on all the different techniques. And then you get some little, you get some projects in this book as well. There's information about your tension and working a gauge. And there's also information about decorative stitches too. Then there's information about finishing your work, weaving in the ends and blocking your work, joining pieces together and the different borders that you can attach as well. And then you get a section on projects. So in here, there's an ear warmer, there's a cup cozy, a ribbed pom-pom hat, a ribbed pom-pom scarf, there's colour block squares, there's a colour block floor cushion, there's a colour block blanket, there's a gadget and glasses case, washcloths, bobble cushion, zipped pouches, sleep masks, wall hanging which looks really pretty, plant pot covers and storage baskets, produce bags, a market bag, penguin toy, and I think that is it. Yeah, a very cute penguin toy, and that is it. I have found this a great reference point. So like I said, if I come across something in a pattern and I don't quite understand it, it's great to be able to flick through here and find it. You don't need this book though, because there are so many brilliant blogs and YouTube tutorials out there to help you as well. I quite like having something that I can flick through. And then I think this might have come up on Instagram. I think somebody shared it on Instagram, but I've also bought this book. I'm yet to use this book to follow any of the patterns, but I'm very keen to have a go at maybe crocheting this. And there's quite a few jumper patterns in here too. So this is called Modern Granny Stitch Crochet. So once you've mastered the granny stitch, in theory you should be able to crochet the projects that are in this book. And this is written by Claudine Powley. And in this book, there's lots and lots of information about the granny stitch techniques. And then there's different projects. So there's a folk blouse, tank top, patchwork jumper, chevron vest, striped cardigan, ripple top, v-neck jumper, geometric cowl, boho scarf, colour pop mittens, colour pop beanie, and festive jumper. And there are lots and lots of projects in here that just look like really good fun. So I do want to have a go at this. I think that looks like a really fun little kind of vest. And then I'm also super keen, I mean, I don't know if I'm going to set myself the challenge of learning to do this by Christmas, but I absolutely adore that festive jumper. I feel like I should challenge myself to have a go at crocheting that jumper by Christmas. We'll see, but I really love the look of the festive jumper too. I found that quite an inspiring book to flick through, and it's really got me really motivated to have a go at crocheting some of those as well. But it is something that I have absolutely loved learning to do. I have just spent time making sure that I practice and practice and practice the same thing once I've learned a technique. And I've also kind of reminded myself it's meant to be fun, and it doesn't matter if it goes wrong. A little bit like the approach I have with sewing, and I've just jumped in head first, used all the different resources out there to help. And yeah, I'm really enjoying learning to crochet. So I hope you've enjoyed hearing my experience of learning to crochet, and some of those things that I've talked about. I really hope they're helpful to you if it's something that you are really keen to have a go at crocheting. I'll link everything I've talked about down below. If you've got any questions, I will try my best to answer them. I am still very much a beginner, but that is my experience of learning to crochet so far. If you've enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I'd really love it if you could hit that subscribe button, because you get notified of when I bring out my next video. Thank you as always for watching. Take care, and I'll be back soon with another video. Bye.